The post-apocalypse has always been a popular setting for games, but most take the long view, envisioning a world that exists long after the bombs have dropped. But what about the time immediately after they drop? The surface fresh with radiation and everyone still living cowering beneath the earth in their fallout shelters. Like most of those games, 60 Seconds looks at the apocalypse through a dark comedic lens. From the very first time you load up the game, it makes it clear the tone it's going for, playing the role of the Cold War era PSA and adopting an art style that matches quite nicely. The game is split into two distinct parts. First are the titular 60 seconds, the amount of time that you're given to gather everything you'll need to survive the coming nuclear apocalypse. You rush around your house, grabbing everything you can carry, including the rest of your family, quickly tossing it into the shelter, then running around some more, making sure to be right next to the shelter when the bomb does finally go off. After hopping into your shelter, you and your family hunker down for the long haul. Assuming you manage to get everybody during the 60 seconds of running around, your family consists of 4 people: Timmy, Mary Jane, Ted, and Dolores. Once you're in the bunker, your only mission is to be sure as many of these people as possible live until the military comes to rescue you. The rest of the game pretty much plays out like a traditional text adventure. At the start of every new day, you read a well-written and often darkly humorous journal entry that contains any sort of special events that may have happened to your group, as well as a status update for each of your living family members, telling you how much food or water they might need, if they're sick or not, anything that might be wrong with them. Then you're given the chance to ration food and water to your group. Now, each one of the people in your group can go without food for a while, but they can only go without water for 4 days, so the need for water is a constant concern. Now, as you might expect, you don't just get to sit down in your bunker rationing food and water in peace. You will have to go outside in order to scavenge more supplies, as your family didn't think to stockpile any food or water beyond what you could grab in 60 seconds. And there are other pressing matters beyond sustenance, like roaming groups of bandits, radioactive cockroaches, and of course, the eventual military evacuation to prepare for. While there is a set number of these randomized events that can occur, and you'll eventually see either most of them or all of them over the course of multiple playthroughs, what makes them interesting is the vast majority of them require you to use some sort of item that you may or may not have remembered to grab during your 60 seconds of rushing around the house. For example, you're constantly given the chance to send someone outside in order to gather more food and water. But if you don't give them a gas mask, they might get sick. And if they get sick, then you need to use the med kit in order to keep them alive, which means you might not have a med kit later to use on someone else who just comes down with something like the common cold, which means they die. That feeling of cascading failure is what really makes 60 Seconds so intriguing. Oh, you've been successfully listening to the radio and know the military is coming. You've sent out a message for them telling them where you are. You've done everything they've told you to. But now, you don't have a flashlight, so you can't signal them to pick you up? Well, guess you're out of luck. To be sure, that randomness can be frustrating at times, like when an earthquake will happen and the game forces you to choose one item out of 3 to save from the earthquake. All of a sudden, you might find yourself unable to ever win the game. In fact, I imagine many people will find that absolutely untenable, but for me, it's part of the experience. Some weird part of me loves getting screwed over by the dice rolls, watching this perfect little nuclear family slowly wither away in this bunker as its members die and go crazy. At the end of every day, when that screen fades to black to transition to the next, I await the results with bated breath, always eager to see the repercussions of my actions depicted in the static artwork. And you do find yourself making odd strategic choices I also find fascinating. For example, let's say that everyone is dead except for one adult and one child. The problem is that if you have an adult leave the bunker to look for supplies, you'll get a message that the bunker has been taken over by a third party more often than not, because there was a child in the bunker and they made the wrong decision about opening the hatch. So to avoid this, I always found myself sending my children out on the dangerous missions, something you would never think to do in real life. And as I did more and more playthroughs of the game, weird strategies like that kept emerging. Strategies that, while certainly increased my chance at winning at the post-apocalypse, would almost certainly screw over the others who lived in the bunker with me. And I think that's the best part of this game, the experience itself. Unlike a lot of similar sort of roguelites, this one is certainly not infinitely replayable. At some point, you've seen most of the events there are to see, and you instantly realize that one's about to screw you over because you've forgotten a certain item. But while I was in the midst of those first few playthroughs, I was absolutely fascinated and enthralled with both the game's concept and its execution. I don't see myself going back anytime soon, but I had a great experience with 60 Seconds while it lasted, and gladly recommend it to anyone who can get past those few minor caveats. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to like, comment, and share it. If you'd like to see more reviews like this or other content in the same style, be sure to check out some of my other videos, or subscribe to see all of the new videos I make. Thanks, and I'll see you next week.